my partner was my father, right? It's been really nice to be able to co-found this company together. He's been working hotels through about three cycles. So he started in the '90s, and his company that he was working for, really got into hotels when the Japanese pulled out, when the Japanese stock market crashed out. Japan was pulling everything out in the '90s. His company was buying more hotels. The company he was working for, so he was managing them, doing those kind of things. Then we saw the 2001, right? That's more of a quick cycle, whereas big terrorist attack, right? 9/11 happens, people were scared to travel, stay at places. There were concerns that it was not just going to be on the. It was also going to, I think Disneyland had some threats, some other things. So you have kind of a quick cycle and something like that, where it's an event-based cycle. Then obviously you have 2008, 2009, right, with massive recession, and you have that long cycle. That's the one that probably more people are familiar with. Then you have the COVID cycle, which was kind of a mix between, there was some stuff going on with the it being a kind of an event-driven cycle, but also there was some underlying things, inflation, interest rates, some other things happening in the macro aspect that was slightly related, but also there's kind of its own things going on with the inflation and some other things that are happening on the macro that weren't necessarily event-driven. And so the way we think about cycles is that depending on what cycle you are in, it's kind of like investing in the stock market, right? When you're investing in the stock market, it's not that stocks are bad at any given cycle. It's what the strategy is to buy the stock matters in a given cycle. So in a cycle where you're having booming, 2018, 2019 was like this banner year, bunch of stuff is going on, fairly cheap debt at the time still. Hotels are doing best years ever, like all that kind of stuff on record. People are traveling, all that kind of stuff. Like in those types of hotels, or in those types of deals, one, you're looking at divestiture, right? So when we have big years, you're looking at, or is it time to sell, refinance, take some chips off the table. You start to think about those things. But you're also at those times, you're looking at, you probably don't want to be building new things at the time, or you don't want to be building during the best years and opening in 2008, right? That's the worst thing to do. But in down cycles, those are the times you're thinking, okay, maybe we're taking on a project. Like maybe this is the year that, and that's what we've been doing, is say, hey, we're thinking about projects where, yeah, we're gonna add on a new wing to a project, right? We're gonna add another 50 rooms, another 60 rooms, we're gonna add another column and all that. And yeah, it might affect the operations of the existing hotel, but it's time to do that as a down cycle, right? Because the hotel is already down 30% in revenue off of its all-time high. Going in a low year and dropping that by another, maybe 10% from some disruption on construction, that's a lot better situation than doing that in the up year. So kind of depends on what strategy we're using. I'll say the other side is because we're very focused on operations. So we like to think of ourselves as vertically integrated, and we're pretty radical with that idea, in that we also own a property management company. We manage all of our own hotels, other than the ultra resorts. Those are always managed by Hilton, Marriott, those guys. But we manage our own hotels. What that allows us to do is allows us to keep a really tight pulse on where we are in the cycle and also what's happening on the individual hotel. So it's important to be directionally correct in the macro, I think, but it really matters about execution of the micro. There are a lot of hotels that failed during COVID, and there were some hotels that did very well during COVID, right? They marketed to the nurses and the doctors that were traveling around, having to handle. They were marketing to the response teams, the medical response teams, and they were doing those kind of things really well. You can only do that if you actually manage the hotel and you manage your customer base and you're actually involved in those sales process. You can't do that if you're just reliant on a third-party company that's managing 5,000 other hotels, saying, "Hey, I hope my hotel gets some love this quarter." Within the company, right, we like to promote early and often. So we like to think that people can come in, learn quickly, and be given responsibility very, very quickly and be promoted, and then encourage them to think from a first principles basis to revolutionize the hotel industry. So the hotel industry, kind of like the financing industry, maybe about 10 years ago, was ripe for innovation, right? There's very few things that have been, even today, I'll say this, I love Marriott and all that. If you were to peer behind a front desk when someone's checking you in, you'll be appalled at what you see on the technology. I mean, it's why you'll hear them, right? People are checking in, what's their name? Wolfgramm first name, Koloa, okay, you're checking in today, yep, how long are you, 4 days? And there's 75 keystrokes happening for that. Like, how can that be? How can it take 75 keystrokes to check someone in, right? And you look at the screen and it looks like old DOS system, like old Apple, where it's like the big box that's blocking, and there's no mouse, and you can't, it's just weird. That is true throughout the hospitality industry, right? From the way that people buy hotels, the way they finance hotels, the way they think about managing the hotels. And so one of the things we've asked all employees to do even is, let's think about why we do everything that we do, and let's think about how do we do it better. So here's a simple one: is you have to vacuum hotels, right? They vacuum all the time. Each individual rooms gets vacuumed, and then every corridor gets vacuumed. You know, it costs a lot to vacuum those hotels. It takes a lot of time away from housekeepers to go and do that, and it's also not exactly comfortable work to do, right? To vacuum hotels. So we bought. I had a friend, PhD at MIT, and all that kind of stuff, and bought some robots from him at vacuum hotels. Cost us like $20,000. They vacuum every room in every hotel, and we end up saving that money within the first 3 months. First 3 months, the cost that we would actually labor cost, and that's not even including workman's comp, all the other kind of stuff that associates with actually having someone back in hotels. People bending over and switching things out and all that kind of stuff. If this robot do it, like we're the only hotels that do that. Like, to this day, we're one of the few hotels, maybe a handful of hotels that use automated systems for vacuuming. Another one is in sales, right? You have people knocking on doors. Hey, next time you guys move in, or next time you guys, your company comes to, Houston, why don't you come stay at our hotel? And then you send a little gift box afterwards. Super, super slow. We hired this tech company that sends out 800 emails a day, cold calling and following up automatically and scheduling it and back into our system. Like no one's doing that. One of our hotels, we've closed $500,000 of business the last 3 months doing that, right? So the one thing to think about is how do we revolutionize the way the hotels are run, bought, managed, and then sold, and in a way that takes both technology and also our own experience, having done all these things on the ground level, and pushing the industry forward.